All right, here we are back with the NBA players all-time greatest players list. This is the top 60, but we down to the top 10 now. So hopefully y'all been keeping up. We on number 10 of the 10 greatest NBA basketball players of all time. And we are at none other than Larry Legend, Larry Bird. Larry Bird at one point was considered the greatest to ever play his position. Now, I think that is safe to say not the case by most people's standards. But Larry Bird still has an argument in some people's eyes because Larry was that phenomenal at basketball. Like I said, when I got down to about number 15, really, all these players at some point in their career at this point on my list have had a claim to say they were the best basketball player in the world at different points in their career. And Larry Bird is no exception. As a matter of fact, he spent several years where you can argue he was the best player in the world. Coming into the league at 1980, by 81, Larry Bird was already an NBA champion, and he was the best player on his team, the Rookie of the Year the year before, and then an NBA champion in 81. And he didn't stop there, becoming the third player and still one of only three to win 3 straight league MVPs. 84, 85, and 86, no question Larry Bird was the best basketball player on the planet. And you can make an argument in 83, he was already in the running for it. Larry Bird could do everything on the basketball court. Good at defense, which he doesn't get as much credit for, making the all-defensive team 3 times. He was a 10-time All-NBA standout. Larry Bird in his prime could get you around 25 to 28 points a game. He was going to get you about 10 or 11 dimes. He'd get you about 6 or 7 assists. And he was crafty on the defensive end, like I said, getting steals, getting after it, very aggressive. He could get the rebound and start the fast break and be your point guard, or come off the ball and strictly score. Famous for having one game where he went for over 50 with just his left hand because he wanted to give his right hand a break. Larry Bird was one of the biggest trash talkers the game has ever seen, and one of the best overall players, and probably one of the top 5 basketball IQs of all time. Put some respect on Larry Bird's name. Y'all gotta know who he is, and if you don't, please look him up. It was tough though, you know. I could have made a case for Larry to be even higher than number 10, but we really splitting hairs now in this top 10. And at number 9 on my list is the big fundamentals, Tim Duncan. Duncan was a model of consistency from the moment he hit the NBA. Going from the Rookie of the Year to also winning a championship in his second season in the league, being the Finals MVP. Tim Duncan was All NBA 15 times, also All Defensive Team 15 times. Tim Duncan did it all. He was a league MVP 2 years in a row. His stats never quite jumped off the page. He was just a winner. His demeanor is what the team persona took on. He was calm and cool. You would see him and Kevin Garnett going at it when they would battle. And Garnett, with his attitude, and I mean that in a good way, his fiery passion for the game, he'd be getting after it and getting in Duncan's face. And Duncan would just smile and give him the business. You couldn't really rattle Duncan. He just banked that shot off the glass, give you about 20 to 23 a game, 11 or 12 boards, 3 dimes, and he'd be protecting the rim and leading the team on and off the court. High basketball IQ, a 5-time champion Tim Duncan was. Can't ever disrespect Tim Duncan as one of the all-time greats. The greatest power forward to ever live, even though in a lot of cases he played some center too. And you can put him right in there with the greatest centers of all time, and he'd probably be in the top 5 discussion there. But definitely the greatest power forward of all time. And he's my number 9. At number 8, Some people put this guy higher. Some might not even put him in their top 10. I think that's disrespectful. Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain, one of the greatest and most spectacular phenomenons in sports history. A guy who was a all state, all country track level athlete, even though he was a 7-footer. A guy that could practically touch the top of the backboard. Everything about him is like legendary, like Paul Bunyan, like the Loch Ness Monster. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game for a season. Same season where he averaged about 25 or 26 boards, if I'm not mistaken. Had another season where he averaged like 24 points and 24 rebounds with almost 9 assists a game. They didn't record blocks and steals back then, but I imagine his blocks was probably legendary too because he was a super athlete. Wilt Chamberlain was a leader, even though he doesn't get credit for that sometimes. He was just a force of nature. Arguably, and maybe in some cases not arguably, the most dominant player in the history of basketball. Wilt Chamberlain was a 7-time scoring champ. He was one of the other 3 members of being an MVP 3 seasons in a row. He has 4 total MVPs, but won it 3 years in a row as well. 2-time champion, leading his teams, and he played on a few, from the Warriors to the 76ers and the Lakers. He led them to 6 titles over his career, meaning he got to 6 championships. Not that he won every one. He's won 2 championships, but been to 6. So he was a guy that was always in the mix, a force to be reckoned with. And the only reason he isn't in the top 3 to 1 is because we got to split hairs, and he didn't quite win enough titles at the time against other guys who were on this list. One in particular who I have to put above him, and we'll get to that later. But Wilt Chamberlain, if you told me you thought he was a top 5 or top 3 player, it's hard to argue it when you think of everything he did for the game of basketball. But for me, I got him at number 8. All right, that's all the time I got. Y'all know what it is, and you know who you looking for. J Heat Sports Media. Remember to like, subscribe, or get at me in the comments. And as y'all all know, I'm coming at y'all with that fire. As always, remember to subscribe, and you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok.